But first we got to lay it out. So sometimes we have designs that we like to put the complete background on and then let it dry and then put a pattern on. But with the cart being white, you're going to work so hard. You're going to have to base coat that cart like 3 times to try to get the white back in there. So I was trying to work around it a little bit. And then at the time, I wasn't sure if I was going to put a door in there or windows in there. I was just kind of playing around and getting a feel of what I wanted to create with this flower cart. And because this is one of the ones that we did through the drawing and design course, working on my certification. And so yeah, this is something that Donna has helped us with to start off and how to draw it all. And then after that, it was up to us how we wanted to place it out and where we wanted to put it. If we wanted to have like an ocean in the background or like on a street, with a beach behind it, or you put that flower cart wherever we wanted, right? So I thought nice cobblestone road and the old European style walls and the old doors and so that's basically where I thought I'd like to be, to go and pick up some flowers. So this is my flower garden that you might be able to see a little bit better with this on this option here. Okay, so you can see all the little tiny strokes in there that we're going to be practicing later on today. I think it's pretty easy just to pencil it in and get an idea once I show you guys placement and where you're going to put it. Okay, so it's a little bit on an angle, and it's kind of easier to do it on an angle because if you make it crooked, then it'll probably look a little bit okay because it's on an angle going into the corner of the little area that she's got set up, right? So, it's very Italian, yeah. Yeah, or, Greek or, any of those, Spain, any of those areas, definitely they've got their old areas. Even down in Mexico had areas that look very similar. When I was down in Puerto Vallarta, they had some nice cobblestone roads there. And so, yeah, it could be wherever you want it to be. Alrighty, so the first thing we're going to do is lay out our patterns, okay? And hopefully you've got it printed off. And this was my original drawing that I did. I'm trying to get some ideas, and I drew 3 plants and ended up putting in 5. Okay, so you don't have to worry about worrying about any patterns. I did actually throw a couple of these in here too, but I think they're fairly easy enough to do as well. Again, if you feel like you really want me to add that extra little pattern in there for you guys, then definitely we can do that. Okay, so I had one that was crooked and I had to fix it. So I think this was the one. I had to redo it a couple times. Make sure it was perfect for you guys. Okay, so we want to make sure that it's, in the middle a little bit. You don't want it to be too far up or too far over. Okay, you still want to have room. It looks a little bit big on mine. Let me just double check here that it's in the right direction. That one's not the same. It just looks so big. I guess it is. There we go. There's the original. There's the good one. Okay, so that's why your extra little drawings weren't probably in there. I got them separate, but anyways, you've got them. So we're going to put that in there. All right, so we need to keep room for our window, and then we're going to keep room for our door. All right, so we do want to put this over a little bit low enough and over to the side. Okay, so I have some rulers here. Maybe that'll help you as well. So it's a good 2 inches away from the edge. And then the same at the top, about 1.5 inches away from the top. And then the wheels are about 1.5 inches as well. Okay. But on this side where the door is, you want to make sure you have enough room there. Okay, from the tip of the top of the little pole there, we're looking at a good almost 4.5 inches, 4.25. Right, so then that hopefully will give you enough room to peek in that little door. And some masking tape is always painter's tape. And if you have some that you feel like is really, really sticky, sometimes it's a good idea if you have a towel to take some of the stickiness away. Just put it on something or your shirt or your pants at least once. And then that'll take some of the stickiness away. And then it won't wreck your pattern when you go to take the tape off of it. Okay. Or you buy a really, really cheap tape at the dollar store. So this one here lately is definitely a higher quality. Now I can't get it off of my towel. Alright, so I only do one side. Okay, so then that way I can slip my pattern in there. Okay, dark side down. And start tracing out where my flower cart's going to be. Right, and that's the hardest part, is getting that in there. Okay, once you have the shape of that, then try to stay on the lines so that you have those stripes where you want them. And so if your canvas is already white, then you can, take advantage of that white a little bit. That's there, and it'll help you still see where your pattern goes. Just take your time and go through all of the placement. And I did put 2 lines here just to give you, or you're going to put like a little highlight spot later, but you don't have to really put both those lines in there as long as you have the size and the bottom line here. Okay, and then our little flaps on the side. And we really don't know what's holding this up. If you think that there should be another pole in there, put one. Even Bruce was saying, how's that really being held up? Once you get full of flowers, maybe you don't see the pole. Okay, so some of this we have to use our imagination a little bit. And then our little handles, little dot there, and then the handle coming across, dot. Alright, so as long as we get most of this in here, and if you do cover some of this, you can always lay the pattern back over it to try to get your handles back in there if you feel like you've put some of your background or some of the smaller details. And same with this little foot here. If you do it dark enough, and I do encourage you to push harder. Sometimes we don't want to push too hard, but when we want to keep that line there, yeah, go ahead and push a little harder, so then that way, if you do paint over it a little bit, you'll still see traces of those lines. And then you can always just touch up just a little bit with white where you need it. And then we're going to be adding some shading in our cart too. Okay, so we can just barely see the back wheel. And trying to get this pattern really big for you guys. It might be cut off a little bit on your wheel. Just try to keep going around in a circle. And it's not a real perfect circle, guys, because it's a little bit on an angle. You see a little bit of that angle there, so if it's not totally perfect round. Okay, and then we put a stripe in there, and I chose green. If you guys want to put red stripes or blue stripes, you know, yellow stripes, whatever color you want, you know, you can decorate your stripes in different colors. Okay, so we can just pick this up a little bit and just make sure that everything is there. Okay, so this little circle, there's a little extra second circle around it, and then the very knobby in the little center. All right, so that'll make more sense when you see the painted version. Okay, so that gives you just your placement where all your spokes are going. And then what I suggest you guys do is to move your basket. Okay, so it might be tight close to your flower cart. So if you want it to be a little bit further away, you know, you can move your pattern and place that down a little bit lower and further away from your cart so that you have more room to put your bush and not cover your little flower that's going to be hanging over. All right, so we can quickly just put some tape here for you. And then we can pencil this in. If you're not comfortable with making these baskets, then... And don't worry about all these little extra lines that are down at the bottom there. I'm going to show you a really quick slip slap style that we're going to do to get that look in there, that weave look in there. All you need is your handles and the outside shape. Okay, so if you really want to do like stripes that are painted on, I did draw it out a little bit differently than I painted it. So if you wanted to base coat it and, you know, with a little detailer brush, do it this way, you know, you're more than welcome. Okay, for the drawing, when I was drawing it, I guess it was easier for me to draw it so that it looked like a basket, you know. So don't worry about those little areas there. And we'll put them in. Okay. Alrighty, so the one thing that I didn't put in your supply list is a nice long ruler. Okay, so let me add that. I have a one here that's small now. Depending where you're from, if you're into centimeters or inches, this one's just centimeter one. Okay, so we want to draw a straight line that's going to be the back of the street, and where you see just that edge of the brick line, and it turns into walls. Okay, so we want to have a little bit of an angle going on. All right, so we want that to come right through our flower cart. All right, so let's make this a little bit smaller. You guys can see. Okay, so you guys see my whole canvas now? Okay, and then it helps to show for placement there. So the first thing I wanted to do was find out where my door was going to be. Okay, so if you have a pencil. Alright, so we want that to be a perfect square coming across and then down again. Alright, so now that we have our little basket on, you can kind of see that we're going to put a little bush here, and then we want a little bit of a space for a walkway behind the bush, and then your door. Okay, so if you can just do a little bit of a walk up. It's funny because my friend's last name is Walk Up. We were just talking to him. And then you'll find that nice area that's going to be just above, you know, to give you a nice sized door. Okay, so it's about half. Okay, And we can just lightly pencil this in for now. So then that way you can always adjust it a little bit if you feel like you want more or less angle on it. Okay. So then the back of the wall, all right, so we want that little bit of room for where the walkway is going to be, and then it's going to come straight out behind the back here. Okay, so it seems like I have more room, so it might be more angle there. Let's play with it a little bit. Okay, so I might have the pattern a little bit off, but that's okay. All of ours are going to look a little bit different, right? So we're going to put a line right through and right through to create our walk space. Okay, so again, if you feel like you want it to be a little bit more of a square, which I feel I do, I have to bring that down just a slight bit. Okay, so it gives it a little bit more of a square. So it doesn't have to be a perfect square, but just to the eye. Okay, and then you can always easily erase. Okay, so you can see in my part 1 here that I actually just put my whole color in, and then I ended up deciding to put the door in there. So you can paint around it, or if you want, add the door later, but at least getting your wall in here was very important that you definitely have to do at this point. Okay, and then we can start painting our little cart in there too. Okay, so I do want to show you the door placement. Okay. So if you want to just pencil in a U, and then the one part of the U, okay, you're only seeing the one side of the door, and if you're doing a wraparound, then you can put in the other side of the bricks around your wraparound. Okay, so your first line is going to be there, and then you just kind of make a big U and bring it down and around. And the base of your floor is what's really going to help you give it the direction it needs to go. Okay, as long as you have that angle in there. And then about, just shy of an inch, put another double row all the way around it. Okay, so we do want our bricks to be a little bit bigger. Okay, so you can go, draw however you feel. Okay, bring this down a little bit. So you're really only going to see the inside of the brick in the wall area. Okay. Okay, and then we can put the rest in a little bit later. So the main bricks at the top usually are like a Y. So you have your Y on one side. Okay, so you want to have a little bit of thickness, just shy of an inch. Okay, so your main support bricks usually on these old doors are like a Y. Okay, and then there's usually one right at the top. And then you're going to come on a little bit of an angle and give yourself more bricks all the way down. So some of these bricks won't be seen. There'll be maybe a plant on in front of it. Okay, but it seems like I have more space in this one than I did on the other one. Okay, that might be all right. And then you're barely going to see the ones that match on this side. Okay, again, we're going to put another plant on there. Okay, so that's just where I filed. Trying to get that bump off of there from my stroke work from underneath. Okay, so that'll cover with all the brown that we're going to put in there. And then over here in the corner, we can map out our little window. So again, just a rough kind of placement of just the bottom trickling out. So maybe about 3 inches over, maybe, yeah, about 3 inches over. We can put a line up there and mark it up. Okay. And then you're going to give yourself a little bit more of a ledge coming over. Okay, so there you got some spot coming over, and then give yourself a little ledge. You can just freehand it if you want. Use a ruler if you want. Okay, you don't have to make it too big. Depends on what you feel comfortable. So again, we're going to be putting another plant, and it's going to be hanging over here. So you definitely, wherever you feel like you got enough room, just make that as big as wide. So now you want to put in a little bit of a window frame. Okay, so again, a little bit smaller than your bottom base. Fine. And then really all you can see is the bottom two panels. So sometimes you don't, you don't have to put this in half, okay? Because this is all about illusion. So maybe the other side of that window is off the canvas, and then the rest of the big window is maybe a big 4-panel pane, right? So you don't have to put it always in the middle. You move it over a little bit. Okay. Put a little bit of a board in the middle. That's our little spacer. And like I said, a lot of this is going to be hidden by your flower arrangement. Okay. And we're going to make it a little bit softer, not so more like stonework. Okay, so then that way it's a little softer edges. You'll see in the painting. So we're going to use yellow ochre for our wall. And white. And then kind of put 2 dollops of white out. One over here and one over here. Might need it, but that way we'll have 2 areas that we can play with to add to the gray as well. So if you don't have gray, then you're going to have to mix a good amount of black and white together to create your gray, and then that way you won't run out. Okay, but if you do have medium gray, it is easy to go ahead and use something that's already pre-mixed for you. Okay, so if we need more, we can always add more. And then also a little bit of floating medium, just in case we need it as well. But I always suggest that you start off with a dampened sponge, but I want to use my sponge twice. I'm going to put one side, I'm going to use the yellow ochre and white, and then I want to flip my sponge around and I'm going to use the other side for the gray and white mixture. Okay, so you can dampen all of your sponge, really. Just dampen all of it, but not too much where it's dripping. Make sure you have a little towel to pounce on, to make sure that you're getting most of the moisture out. Okay, so then that way it's just damp. And then if we need more moisture, then definitely we can go ahead and put that in there if we need it. Okay. Add the corner line by the door. The extra line that we're going to do for the stonework along the edge, is that what you mean, Bella? Yes, definitely you can add that in there as well. That's a good point. Okay. So what I did is I went over it again too as well. All right, so we're going to put that wall line straight up from the corner as well. Okay, and once I started painting, I probably would have noticed it. And then we have our stones that are going to come out behind. You're not going to really see those. And then they're going to come in straight behind there too. Okay. So we can start doing the illusion of the wall line with our sponge with the two colors for now, but it's going to be very, very subtle. And then later we're going to come back in and add extra shading to really make that corner look like it's far away. All right, so for right now, it can be just a little bit of mottled, and then I'll show you a trick how we can just pencil that in with the paint as well, start some of the shading in there. Okay.